you can only connect with someone outside of you as deeply as you're able to connect with yourself. So first thing you can do to really create yourself to be different is to tap into exactly who you are, like deeper than you've ever have before, because that right there is different. If you really bring that out of you fully, so of course we're all different, right? But like, are you really fully showing up as your full being every single day? I mean, that's a big question. And most of us, I can probably say, is probably a no, right? And so it's really tapping into what that is and bringing that out of you in every single point of your life, like in your emails, in your connection to even the person, the barista at the coffee shop. And it's really learning how to connect deeply within yourself and get to know yourself on such a level where that's, like, to me, true authenticity, right? And so true authenticity, you're already, I mean, nobody can copy that. It's just, it's impossible.
So you're a smart business committed to innovation, to service and to modern marketing. And you're asking, what's next? Wondering how you can become even more innovative. My name is Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and this is the InnovaBuzz Podcast, where we share all kinds of tips, advice and interview guests on all things innovation and leadership in modern marketing. Hi innovators, it's great to be back. I hope you've had an awesome week so far. I'm really excited to have on the InnovaBuzz Podcast as my guest today, Gigi Bisong of Lit by Miracles. Gigi is a transformational speaker and a coach who helps youth, women and those in life transition to understand their given purpose so that they can live life fully each day. We talk on the podcast about an interesting presentation framework based on LOL. Now Gigi will explain that to you some more, so I'll leave that for her. We also talk about really knowing your audience for your presentation so that you are able to build a connection with them. And we talk about having a structure in your presentations whilst at the same time building in the flexibility and the freedom to adapt to your audience, to their response and to the situation. Without further ado then, let's fly into the hive and get the buzz from Gigi Bisong. Hi, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBuzz, and I'm honoured to welcome to the InnovaBuzz podcast today Gigi Bisong of Lit by Miracles. Now, Gigi is a transformational speaker and a coach who helps youth, women and those in life transition to understand their given purpose so that they can live fully each day. So welcome to the podcast, Gigi. It's a privilege to have you as a guest.
Thank you. Yes, I'm definitely honored to be here with you and your audience.
Now, Michael Mapes on episode 105 recommended that we interview you, so a big hello to Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, I know he listens into the podcast quite regularly, so how are you going? Now, you've co-authored the book 20 Beautiful Women based on an interview series that you did, and I'm really interested in learning more about that, how the whole strategy of developing that information and presenting it in a variety of ways to inspire your audience came together.
Yeah, perfect question there. Yeah, for me, it started since I was little in terms of my love for writing. And so writing was, I call it my first love, is what I had as a child. It was a place that I would go to create these worlds and these experiences that were beyond what I might have been living in my normal day-to-day life. And fast forward after high school and even after college, my love of writing became more of a distant memory. And I got into coaching and doing work with women and still wasn't really connecting to that love of writing that I used to have. And I did have this strong desire to get back into writing. And at some point, I stumbled upon a publisher named Saba Tekel. And so Saba Tekel, I believe I met her on a website called Her Future. And it was a website where it housed many different women who were healers, light workers, coaches that were doing amazing work in the world. So I connected to Saba on there, and that's when she told me about her idea of 20 Beautiful Women. And it completely struck a chord in me. And the reason being so is it's a book of women who are all coming from different walks of lives. They're coming from different countries, different backgrounds, but they all have something in common. And the two things they have in common is, number one, they are bringing their work into the world as a gift. So these are women who are looking into becoming light workers and those who are sharing their gift with others to be a part of saving the world in some shape or form. And the second piece is they are all sharing their story with such authenticity and such vulnerability. And so at that moment, I knew I wanted to be a part of such a book. And the book was definitely more than just a book. It is a sisterhood. And they've had like 4 different volumes. And it's a place where not just we all write our stories and share our stories in this book, but we get together once a year and connect and collaborate and share and celebrate one another.
That's great. So what kind of things do you do that are beyond the book then?
Yeah, so beyond the book is I got my life coaching certification years and years prior to the book coming out. And I knew after, I think it was the first or second day of my certification, that it hit a chord in me at that moment as well. And what happened during that time was I had to coach 3 women. And 3 of the women that I coached were much older. I believe they were probably around like in their 60s actually. And these women had done amazing things in their lives. Like their resumes were outstanding. And I was blown away at all of their accomplishments. But each of the women, and I coached them, they all started crying at the end of our coaching session. And I was a newbie coach, so I knew it didn't really have much to do with my skill as a coach at that time. So I had asked them all, like, why are you crying? And they all said the same exact thing. They said that they were living someone else's life, but they don't even know who they are or where their life direction is supposed to go in. And to me, I felt like, whoa, like how come we have to wait until we're at that point of our lives to find out who we really are, or to really find out what our true gifts and geniuses are? And so at that moment, I knew I wanted to use my coaching skills and the work that I was learning in terms of really tapping into each person's unique genius zone. I wanted to bring that to young people. You know, I love working with women and I continue to do so, but I really had this desire to bring that to young people. And so that was the beginning of my journey, is taking the coaching and using it in non-traditional coaching ways. So not so much working one-on-one with someone, but taking all of my learning that I learned from that curriculum and building curriculum that I can now go into different schools and youth organizations and now work with the parents who are working with these kids and now working with the staff that's working with these kids, and then also working directly with the young people and giving them an experience that they might not have ever had before.
Yeah, that's great. I love that because it kind of magnifies your impact, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. Yeah. And that's really what my desire was. It was, I had this question that I asked myself, how can I create the most impact, at least at this moment today? You know, I mean, of course, you know, once you start your business, there's this growth that happens, you know, every year, every day, there's growth that's happening. But at the moment that I started, I asked myself, how can I have the greatest impact right now? And for me, answering that question is, it wasn't one-on-one. It was more about me coming in and working with a group of students for the course of that year and really giving them an experience with themselves, like experiencing themselves in a way that they've never experienced before, or being able to work with teachers who are now being able to see their students in a different way, or giving their teachers space to be able to heal and a space to be able to share their own stories of how frustrating, or, you know, and have an open and safe space to do that. Because that's a really tough job, right? To be a teacher and to try to mold and shape and educate these kids who are coming from so many different areas. And it's been such a blessing to be able to make that type of an impact in the inner city, especially.
Yeah. So how do you go about, because I know you said something in one of the things that I read or heard about changing the stories that must be changed and writing the ending to our own story. So how do you get that message across to young people in that kind of environment?
Yeah, interesting enough, I was blown away about how easy it was. And when I say easy, meaning how open that the youth are and how much they get it, like typically right away. I know the first time I did my presentation, it was a keynote presentation. at an inner city youth organization. It was my first paid speaking opportunity. And I went in there completely not even sure what was going to happen. To be quite honest, not even sure what my speech was going to be. So it was pretty improvised at the moment. And so I went in there and I shared my message with them. And midway, it was mainly boys that were in the audience. And the boys were raising their hands. They couldn't stop raising their hands. They kept interrupting me, saying, "Miss Gigi," and they're leaning forward and their eyes are getting bigger. And they're nodding their heads and they're saying, "Yes, I've heard about this. I've heard about this. No one's ever telling us about this stuff, or no one's teaching us this information." And so there's this desire inside of them already about really wanting more, or knowing that there's more out there, or more truth, or feeling almost like they're living in a mask, almost like they have that feeling. And I think those conversations are going on within inside of them, but not so much outside. Right. And so it's been just great trying to facilitate those conversations and bringing that out. And the moment you tap into that, it seems like they're very eager and very open and very much able to understand it.
Fascinating. So how do you go about structuring a presentation like that in a situation where, you're not sure about getting engagement from the audience?
Yeah. Awesome question there. Yeah, well, for me, number one, what's important is knowing your audience. So I personally don't structure my talks too, I don't have it too structured. So I know kind of my stories. And there's a OL is one that I typically use sometimes when speaking to young people. And that is when their speech that comes to talking about your purpose and connecting to your truth of who you are. And so LOL stands for, the first L is limiting beliefs, the second was other people's maps, and then the last L is labels.
All right, so just before we had all the technical difficulties and breaking up, you were telling us about the 3 LOLs. Maybe you can go over that again very briefly for the audience.
Yeah, so when I do a presentation, especially when speaking to young people, I really like to bring in something that they can really remember and connect with their personal lives. So for instance, one piece that I've really been bringing into a few of my presentations has been talking about LOLs. And off the bat, typically when young people hear LOLs, they raise their hand and they say, yes, it's laugh out loud, and it brings them in terms of engagement. But then I explain to them that no, it's actually it means something completely different. So if I'm doing a speech around finding one's purpose, finding one's genius zone, the LOLs stand for limiting beliefs is the first L. The O means other people's maps, and then the last L is labels. So I usually bring that in. It really connects to the kids. And also, I can take each of those 3 things and I can go deeper into them. For instance, like for limiting beliefs, when I talk about those, I go ahead and I explain exactly what they are. And I usually have an activity, something that's like an experience that they can engage in that really brings them into, oh, okay, this is a limiting belief. And they don't just know it, but they can feel it. So I create an experience where they can really dive in and kind of create that feeling of what it feels like to have a limiting belief. And then I also go into how you can find your own limiting beliefs and how you can get rid of them. And then I bring in my story. And then I do the same thing for the other people's maps and for the labels. So I bring in an experience, and then I engage them, and I talk about what that is, how to get rid of it, and I bring in a story. So usually we'll create that for each single point. So I always try to have at least 3 points that I'm trying to make in a presentation, and then I'll use my stories and my experience. So I usually like to bring in an experience where people feel engaged, especially when I'm doing a keynote for high school kids or younger, or even college students as well. And but I don't like to have too much information in my presentation. I do like to have a lot of room for being improv, or to do more improv. And the reason I do that is I personally feel like I shine much better when I have room to connect with the audience and bring in different stories and examples based off of the feedback I'm getting from the energy from the room. I know every speaker is totally different, so some speakers might need that presentation memorized. Otherwise, they'll freak out and they'll forget and they start stumbling. But for me, it gives me more room to be more authentic and more vulnerable. And I find my best presentations are those where I have that space to connect with the audience and give them what I feel they personally need, and where it's not like a canned presentation that I'm using each and every single time, because every room, every environment is going to be different.
That's right. Yeah, I was just going to say that that gives you the flexibility to adapt to your audience and gauge the response you're getting and change what it is you're doing if you're not getting the engagement that you desire.
Definitely.
All right. So can you give us an example of how you might talk about those 3 points, the limiting beliefs, the other people's maps, and the labels?
Yeah. So for instance, I just did a presentation actually, I think a couple of weeks ago. I spoke to a room full of 7th and 8th grade girls. It was a girls' conference at a local middle school here in Minneapolis. And for the limiting belief, I had one of the students come on stage, and I had the kids in the audience help me create, different beliefs that we might have, and like negative beliefs that we think about ourselves. And I gave them a few already. And so the young lady that stood up next to me, we had these big pieces of paper that were able to stick on her, and they all have words on them. Like I pre-written the words on them, and maybe one was, I'm not smart enough, or I'm not pretty enough, or I'll never get into college, or things that these young people can relate to, like beliefs and things that they might be saying to themselves all day. And then I bring in the audience as participation, like what are some negative beliefs, and they're letting me know, and we're writing them on paper, and I get maybe 4 more, and we're putting them on this girl, and she's walking around the room, and I'm asking for their feedback and asking them, how do you think this young lady is going to be when she walks into a classroom? Do you think she's going to be raising her hand when there's a question and she knows the answer? Or what type of relationships do you think she's going to get into when she starts dating? Or how do you think she's going to act when she goes into an interview? I'm asking them these questions. They're giving me feedback, right? And so they're able to, oh yeah, this is how this is. And so then we talk about the limiting beliefs, and then we start removing each and every single one of them. And that kind of shows like, oh, she's revealing her true self, When all these are revealed, they're really not her truth, they're not her stories. And then we talk about where they usually come from. They come from when we're probably really little, something happened to us. There was a story made about why that happened, right? And so kind of unraveling of what that looks like. But that visual of, that friend of theirs that's standing up with all these beliefs that are on her, it's like, whoa, yeah, I can see that. Like those are things I think about. But seeing them on this girl, like walking around, it's like, oh, I'm able to really go deeper into what that looks like, just watching her, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Make it really visual as well.
Yeah, and then for other people's maps, what do we do for that one? Same presentation. We talked about other people's maps, and I bring in the engagement in terms of asking the young people, and maybe pointing to one young lady and saying, if you were going to Texas and you were going to Virginia, like, would you choose each other's maps, right? And so they automatically know, why would I choose her map? I'm trying to go to Texas. She's going to Virginia. And then I do that with a few other ladies. And then I even choose 2 ladies who are maybe going to the same destination. So maybe both of these ladies are going to New York City. But say one young lady wants to get there super fast, like she's on a mission. She wants to get there as fast as she can. And the other lady wants to have more of a road trip and an experience and meet people and have these random conversations and interactions and see all these beautiful different museums and parks and things along her way. And so I asked, would you guys take each other's maps, right? And usually they know, like, oh, well, no, because I want to check out stuff and she wants to get there right away, so we're going to need a different route. And so that's, the same analogy that I share with them about knowing your maps and knowing where you're headed and knowing your intention and knowing your destination. Because even though you might have people in your life who are interested in the same destination and same dreams as you are, your experience, if you don't know what your desires are, right, then you will have a completely different experience with that than the other person wants. And so it's really important to be clear on your intentions and your desires of who you are and where you're headed. And so, like, that's an example of one interaction that I had with the engagement with the young people.
Yeah, that makes total sense, and I think it's a really good way to approach that learning, and then of course support it with the stories.
Yeah, the stories are really powerful.
So I just wanted to cycle back then a little bit to the 20 Beautiful Women book and link the interviewing structure to that. Is there a connection between how you do presentations and how you do interviews for something like that book?
Not quite at all. And so for the book, it was more about an open story. So it was pretty much wide open. Share your story, whatever that is. and so maybe, one might need help fine-tuning their story, but it's pretty open in terms of share your story and what's been happening in your life and what's impactful. And so they definitely have more room to find out and to explain what that is.
Okay, and how did you pull a book together from those 20 stories then to kind of make it a coherent thread, if you like?
Okay, well, I actually was one of the co-authors of the book. So Saba Tekel is the publisher. So she is the creator of the book. So I basically wrote my piece. I believe I'm chapter 4. That was titled Miracles. So yeah, I was one of the 20 women in one of the volumes.
Okay. All right. Well, there's a lot of great tips there for presentations and using stories, and I really like the structure that you've given us there. And as you say, whilst it's a structure, it gives you the flexibility to adapt your presentation to the situation and the audience and make sure you are getting that engagement. I always find it fascinating, people that do stick very closely to a script, because the moment they go off script, you can tell straight away. Even if you don't know the script, you can often tell that, okay, they've gone off script now, and there's all of a sudden they're uncertain, or they even tell you, oh, I forgot something.
Exactly.
I kind of find funny, because if they don't tell you that they've forgotten something or left something out of their script, nobody knows, because nobody knows their script. Yeah.
Right. I found too, like, there's been a couple times, which I don't recommend at all, but there's been a couple times where I've tried creating a script and nothing would work, like the LOL is great for young people, but I don't really want to bring that in if I'm speaking to a group of women all the time. So I want something deeper and more impactful and, more powerful, especially depending on the group that I'm speaking with. And so there was a situation I remember, or a speaking gig I had in California in Los Angeles, actually. And it was a group of women who were coaches and healers, and they're doing amazing work all over the world. So these are people who are in my area and even above, right? And so I felt some intimidation to speaking to them. And so I was frozen, actually. I didn't know what to speak about. And it was up until actually the moment I was called to speak, I had no idea what I was going to talk about. Like, no idea whatsoever. And so I was having high anxiety, but then the moment they called my name, and all the other speakers were speaking behind a podium. But I personally do not like speaking behind a podium. I feel like it blocks the energy from me in the audience. And so I just went out there and I took the microphone and I stood right in front of the audience and had absolutely no idea what I was going to talk about. And so I just looked at them and I did my own little meditation, deep breathing, and I invited them to come and join me doing some deep breathing. And after I did a quick meditation and a quick centering and grounding myself, it's just like, immediately I was able to just go. Like, it's almost like it's been channeled through you. And then I was able to speak, and I just kept going and going and going. And at the moment I knew I was done, I just felt it in my body that was all I needed to say. And it was the right timing. I was supposed to speak for 30 minutes, and it was exactly, I think, somewhere roughly around 30 minutes. And it turned out to be one of my most amazing talks I've ever given. And the feedback that I got afterwards was just like outstanding. And so, but yes, I don't recommend that, but sometimes that can work out quite well though.
Yeah. It does highlight though that if you do script it very carefully and then decide you need to stick to that script, that it kind of puts a bit of a straitjacket on you, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Completely.
Yeah. At the same time, it's probably a good idea to, if there's a very specific topic, to actually have something that you've rehearsed so that you can deliver it confidently. That doesn't mean to say that you have to stick specifically to the script that you might have rehearsed.
Exactly.
All right. Well, this has been fascinating, even despite all the technical glitches that we've had. But I think it's time we moved on to the Buzz, which is our innovation round, and it's designed to help our audience, who are primarily innovators and leaders in their field, with some tips from your experience. So I've got 5 questions that I answer, and hopefully we'll get some insights from your experience that will inspire people to do something awesome. So what's the number one thing anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
Yeah, personally, I think the number one thing that you need to do to be more innovative is to create space in your life. If there's too much stuff happening or too much stuff to do, where's room for the creativity? I happen to be a very spiritual person, so I do feel like we can only connect with the things outside of us as deeply as we are able to connect with ourselves. So that means basically I can't really connect in terms of creating something creatively if I don't have space to feel, space to be, and space to have my imagination go a little bit. And so if that means creating one day out of the week where it's a looser schedule, right? And so I feel like it gets and even change. If you have a very strict regimen that you follow, I feel like you need to shake things up a little bit. If that means taking a walk in a park that's different than where you normally walk through, I feel like that gets some of the energy in your body moving for creativity and innovation to happen.
That's great advice. And I know I was speaking recently with Fiona Kerr, who's a neuroscientist, and she's a big fan of daydreaming. And she has lots of scientific explanations for why that creating space, as you call it, and doing something different, why that actually triggers the neuroresponders in the brain to come up with new ideas and make new connections.
Fascinating.
So what's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
Best thing I've done to develop new ideas. Yeah, it's kind of funny because new ideas, it's usually my problem is not the fact that I don't have a lot of new ideas. Usually my problem is sticking to one thing. So I'm one of those who just constantly are having ideas all the time. But one thing that I do that helps with the ideas, I guess, as well, is just I have a very open mind. Like, I'm a very curious person, and I don't have to try to be curious. I'm just naturally curious. And what that looks like is if I'm at a coffee shop, I'm hearing everything. Like, I'm hearing what people are talking about. I'm seeing on the bulletin board what's on there, and I'm seeing like, ooh, what's that? I'm taking pictures of it and coming back to it later. If I'm on the train and I'm hearing someone talk about a conversation and they say a sentence that's really striking to me, I write it down. So I write down everything, and I take pictures of everything. And so I have like a collection of things that are interesting to me, if that's pictures and colors, fabrics, if it's words, if it's sentences, if it's books, websites, right? And so with all of those things together comes ideas. Right? And so the innovation usually comes for me, it's like bringing things together that don't really go together. It's like, that's new, right? And so it's like things are coming together in the creation. But in order for that to even happen, you need to be curious and you need to be open. And so that also means being aware of your surroundings. If you're very just tunnel vision and just go without ever stopping to kind of look around or listen, be curious about what's around you, then there might be information and signs and beautiful messages around you all day long, but you're not capturing them. And so I like to capture all those moments that I'm finding and seeing. And I have tons of notebooks where I keep them all together. But it does no good if you have all these notebooks and you never look at them. So, so you need to have space in your week or in your month to go back and to reread these things and to, to be like, ooh, and get your highlighter out and play around with all these ideas or all these things that you've been capturing all this time. So.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that as you're talking about making all these notes and taking pictures, which is great because I often think that I don't use my phone enough to take pictures when I'm out and about, and I find that a great way to kind of collect interesting things, but then making time to go back and look at them and think about them in terms of how can these connect to something different, or what can you learn from them, or is there a model that is behind that might be interesting to explore further. Yeah, great advice. So what's your favourite tool or system for improving your own productivity and allowing you to be more innovative?
My favorite tool or system?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of funny because it's not quite like a database or or anything tangible. Yeah, my favorite tool is meditation for innovation. And it's for me, the reason why, it's because my best ideas come through meditation, and it's come through tapping into a place that's beyond where I'm and beyond the state where I'm currently at right now. And so the way I typically do it is, everyone's ability to connect is at different places, just depending on how open and how much you've already been doing meditation. I know I get that might be different for everyone. But for me, it's very powerful when I do it. And so I will actually ask a question, maybe even before I go to sleep at night. And so if I'm curious about what to do next in a certain area, like I'll ask it. And then sometimes in my dreams, I'll actually receive messages from that. Or if I don't, I might ask a question and then I'll go into meditation. So I'll ask a question, I'll do a deep meditation. And then after I'm done meditating, I will journal. Like I'll just do free write journal, for a page or 2 pages, and without thinking, just writing. And so I believe, asking the question, you can do that like in prayer form or just however you wish to do it. But I feel like if you're doing the prayer form, praying is like asking the question, and then meditation is giving your energy space to hear the answer. And then the writing is the answer.
That's great.
So that's how that works for me.
Yeah. I like the journaling it straight away after the meditation, or some people talk about doing a journal first thing you wake up, don't think about anything and just write. So I think it's possibly a way to kind of get the unconscious thoughts out on paper, perhaps.
And to be quite honest, like I know many people speak on this, but I find it so true, where I think they say, I can't remember quite if it's 3 a.m. or 4 a.m., right? But it's definitely somewhere between like 3 a.m. and, before 6 a.m. for sure. There's some magic that happens in those hours in terms of idea creation. And I mean, it blows my mind, like what can happen in those hours. And so I personally really prefer waking up at like 4 in the morning to have space to, and it's not to do, but it's more of just being and allowing things to come in. So that's when I do more of my prayer, my meditation, and I get much more powerful answers if I do them in those hours than I do at any other time during the day. So I think that's a really it's for me an amazing time for innovation is between the hours of like 3. So I find it if you're at home and you can't sleep and it's like 2:30 in the morning, I say wake up, and some really great ideas are going to come to you.
Yeah. Well, I've definitely had that. The problem is when you decide that you need some more sleep and you're having all these ideas, it's really hard to get back to sleep.
Exactly.
Okay, what's the best way to keep a project or a client on track?
Yeah, the best way, well, two different things. So the best way to keep a project on task for me is to really look at it from the place of where it is that you want to go, right? And so having that end tracker in mind, and then really also using, I like to use a lot of help, right? And like really kind of delegate things that needs to be delegated to keep things on track. And I do like to keep my systems really, like my CRMs, together, and they really help me to keep on track, as well as my day planners. And so I usually keep it where it's like, this is my plan, and then I have, like maybe if it's 3 months out, the big project that I have, and then I revisit it every month, then I revisit it every week, and then I actually revisit it every night, and then every Sunday I do like a re-alteration of the plan, just to make sure, like, are there any loose ends that aren't tied up? Am I on track, or do things need to be changed? Did I forecast this wrong? Did I think that I was going to be at this place at this moment, but I'm really over here? And so every Sunday is when I change my week accordingly. But I'd like to keep it that way. It keeps me moving, it keeps the momentum going, but also keeps things realistic, as well as having those touching points, like every week, every Sunday, and every night as well. And then also re-looking at it in the morning too. And there's a way that I do that in terms of my week is what I do is I write down all the different projects I have. So I think I usually use like three to five projects at a time is what I'll work on per week. And then what I'll do is I'll write down who do I need to contact in order to get something done? Like, who am I waiting for? And so I'll do this every single day, right? So I'll have all my projects for the whole week, but I'll do them daily. And so with each project, I'll ask who do I, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase this. How can I not move forward because I need to get something from this person? And so I actually write that down. So if it needs to contact Bob because I'm waiting on him to send me his proposal, right, and I can't move forward until I have that sent, then I contact Bob. So I write down who do I need to contact to get things moving forward. I also write down 5 to 10 things that need to happen that day that are like 100% like mandatory. And then I also ask myself, what else needs to be delegated? So I ask those same questions every single day and go through them to make sure the projects are moving forward.
That's a really good structure. I like that. Okay, what's the number one thing you think anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
Number one thing to differentiate yourself, as I said earlier about the connecting, you can only connect with someone outside of you as deeply as you're able to connect with yourself. So the first thing you can do to really create yourself to be different is to tap into exactly who you are, like deeper than you've ever have before, because that right there is different. If you really bring that out of you fully, so of course we're all different, right? But like, are you really fully showing up as your full being every single day? I mean, that's a big question. And most of us, I can probably say, is probably a no, right? And so it's really tapping into what that is and bringing that out of you in every single point of your life, like in your emails, in your connection to even the barista at the coffee shop. And it's really learning how to connect deeply within yourself and get to know yourself on such a level where that's, like, to me, true authenticity, right? And so true authenticity, you're already, I mean, nobody can copy that. It's just, it's impossible. And so to me, it's really finding out what that means and going deeper into connecting with yourself on that level.
Yeah.
And asking yourself that question, even a daily question of, am I showing up today fully as myself?
Yeah, that's a really powerful question. And it is a fine line, isn't it, between modeling behaviors in people that you admire and people that are good at stuff you want to be good at, but at the same time showing up as yourself, as the best version of yourself that you can be.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's what people are looking for, and that's where I know for myself, the only reason things have worked in terms of like my business, and the reason the momentum has been going and flowing the way that it has been the moments when I'm not showing up as myself and I'm doubting myself, or either I'm following a protocol that doesn't fit me personally. Things struggle. They don't flow. But the moment I show up, even if it's not clear, like there's been many times I have no idea what I was doing in terms of what's the next step, right? But because I was so raw and so authentic and vulnerable, and I was just me, and so people would just be attracted. People are attracted to truth, like we just automatically are, even though we can't put a name to it. We don't know why, but we are just attracted to truth. We're attracted to seeing somebody who is fully themselves, because I think that's something we all deeply desire for our own selves, right? And so if we see that in another being, we're attracted to them because we actually want that for ourselves as well. And because of that, I feel like momentum can start to flow for you, the moment that you really are connecting with that part of you. And again, nobody will be able to copy that.
Yeah. All right. What's the future then for you and your business?
Yeah, so the future right now is taking I've done some amazing work, especially with young people and working in schools and organizations, but it's taking it to the next level and what I call creating even more impact. And so what that looks like is not just coming in and doing like an 8-week program for an organization, but actually going in and creating trainings for these young people so they're a part of our training system and our training program as well. So we're creating like the next level of leaders to be a part of these trainings so they can also be impactful for other young people. And thinking that for me at least, the biggest impact that I have is every time that I am teaching, I'm learning, I'm going even deeper into my own teachings. Whenever I'm in front of a room and I'm facilitating a workshop, I'm deepening my own understanding. And so it's taking these young people to that level as well. So instead of them passively sitting in an audience, listening to a lecture, or passively being involved in a 6-week program where they're kind of showing up, instead of it being that way, these young people are going to be involved and connected and being trained to also be teachers, to teach leadership and these coaching skills to other young people.
Yeah, that's great. And like I said earlier, it really magnifies the impact that you have.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely.
What's the number one piece of advice you'd then give to any business owner who wants to be a leader in innovation and in their field?
Great question. Yeah, the number one advice I would say is to trust your process, like trust what's happening, but also to really get clear on where you're going and why you're going there. Like have a clear intention as to what it is that you want to do and what kind of impact that you want to bring, and trust and give yourself forgiveness and acceptance along the way. And the number one thing I would think is to bring it back to connecting with oneself and whatever that means for you. I mean, for me, it's big into meditation and into my spiritual practice, but for another being, maybe it's going to be something different. But being very connected, because it's easy to get caught up and in living your life and building a business and creating innovation and creating leadership, and then you find yourself creating somebody else's model. And then you find yourself not quite enjoying it or feeling stuck or feeling like things aren't moving. And it's kind of like what I bring up with the young people that I did in the presentation a couple of weeks ago is make sure you know what your map is and don't choose other people's maps. And so it's being really clear on your intention, because if you're building a business, I guess you have to ask yourself, do you want to build a business, or are you building yourself another job? Or how do you want your job to feel? And there is definitely times when you're going to be wearing a lot more hats in your business than when you've, progressed down the road and, you're 5 years in, you're going to have more relaxation and you're going to have more of a groove happening. So I get that part of it, but still you need to be clear on where it is you're going and what type of feeling that you want it to have. There are some people who really enjoy that push hard and work all day and travel all over type of atmosphere, and other people, that would stress them out and that would run them crazy, and they want more space. So it's being clear on what you want, even though that might not be true in your business for the next 3 years, but still having a clear intention of, at that point, when things are settled down a little bit, how do I want it to feel? Because if you know exactly what your desires are around that, you'll be creating your business that's going to be aligned with that. And so just to summarize that, because I said a lot, is to be clear on your intention in terms of how do you want your business to feel for you? How do you want it to feel right now? And how do you want it to feel down the road? Yeah, and then also get clear on your desires. What are your desired feelings that you want to have in this business? Do you want this business to feel structured and powerful, or do you want it to feel creative and exciting and adventurous? You know, like, what are some of those desired words that you could play around with that feel like that really align to what you desire to have in your business? And, you know, jot them down in your planner and just kind of keep circling back to that and asking, oh, is this true? Is this feeling like this? Is this feeling structured and powerful? Because those are my strong desires that I really need to have. Otherwise, what am I creating this for? I'm the creator, you know. It should feel exactly the way you want it to feel.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
Yeah, great advice. All right. Well, thanks, Gigi. This has been really great, even despite all the technical glitches we've had. Where can people reach out to you and say thank you?
Yeah, so they can reach me as we were sharing about the 20 Beautiful Women book, the website for the book, and it talks a little bit more about my different articles that I've written and also my coaching. It is 20beautifulwomen.com, and that's 20 as the number, so 20beautifulwomen.com/Gigi. And also am a co-founder of a speaking agency called Bisong of Lit, and that website is speakingagency.biz.
All right, we'll link to that in the show notes underneath the blog post for the podcast. So finally then, who would you like me to interview on a future InnovaBuzz podcast, and why?
Beautiful question here. I guess I would say Jamie Greenberg. And the reason I would say Jamie Greenberg in terms of your podcast, and it's all about innovation, and Jamie is the master of innovation and branding, and that's his expertise right there. It has him written all over it.
Okay, that sounds fascinating. So Jamie, keep an eye on your inbox. We'll send you an invitation courtesy of Gigi Bisong. All right. Well, thanks so much for sharing your time and insights with us today on the InnovaBuzz podcast. Gigi, I've really enjoyed this immensely and learned a lot, and I look forward to staying in touch. I know we're doing some work together on the speaking thing where I need to catch up a little bit, but let's keep in touch.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all for listening. Really enjoyed them.
Well, that was really fascinating, and there were some great presentation tips shared by Gigi on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed hearing from her as much as I enjoyed speaking with her, despite the technical glitches that we experienced throughout the episode. All the ideas and tips that Gigi shared with us can be found at innovabiz.co/Gigi Bisong. That is GIGIBISONG. All lowercase, all one word, innovabiz.co/Gigi Bisong. You'll also find contact information for getting in touch with Gigi there, as well as links to her website and to the book 20 Beautiful Women. Gigi suggested I interview Jamie Greenberg, a master of innovation and branding, on a future InnovaBuzz podcast. So Jamie, keep an eye on your inbox for an invitation from us to the InnovaBuzz podcast, courtesy of Gigi Bisong. Stay connected. Head on over to iTunes or Stitcher or Pocket Casts and subscribe to the InnovaBuzz podcast so you make sure you'll never miss another episode. We'd also love you to leave us a review, because what you think matters. take some of the ideas you've heard today and apply them in your business. Any thoughts, ideas, suggestions or questions, share them in the comments below the blog post. And remember, if you want to get better marketing results than you ever have, join our fantastic LinkedIn community at the Transformational Marketing Academy. All you have to do is go to innovabiz.co/TMAC. It's free to join. Hope to see you there soon. Until next time, I'm Jürgen Strauss from InnovaBiz. Remember to be awesome and keep innovating.